assist teachers, our first CTLI training course, to assist teachers with actually facilitating the arts and teaching CAPS, but also in a more aware way. We worked with the 4 art modalities, and for us, we went in with wanting to remind people how integrated the creative arts is. That it is an integrative thing in modality, and coming from theatre, again, for us, the application and use and integration of music, art, dance, rhythm, as well as our spoken word and physicality and embodied movement is part of our practice. And the beauty was when we were working on this training course, supporting teachers in schools, we realized that it is integrated. All of us, when we started with our activities, it was more difficult to kind of extrapolate and take it out. We realized that we were all integrated in anyway. So that was just my first disclaimer. And then before we continue, so talking about healing, well-being and the arts by practicing the arts in schools, working with very enthusiastic students in applied theatre at Stellenbosch University, usually in the first semester I will hear students saying, yes, theatre is therapeutic, or art is therapeutic, and music is therapeutic. And the question usually is, yes, it has the potential to be therapeutic, but it is evocative on artistic medium. So how do we work with that? And so usually for us, coming from creative arts therapies and from drama therapy, the short definition of that is the intentional use of creative processes and techniques for therapeutic purposes. And that is the same thing with applied arts as well, even if it's not therapeutic. So I just wanted to bring that in, and I am going to show a slide in a short while, just reminding us of the therapeutic, what we would do in the creative arts. But this conversation is really about the healing potential, and not the idea that teachers and everyone else should be therapists, or that if we practice arts and we have this awareness of the potential of processing things and the potential of the healing of the arts, that means we are promoting people must do therapy who's not therapists. That's not it. We are really just looking at our medium that has this ability to do it. And I'll show a beautiful quote from Boal, who says, we are all theatre, we are all artists. And with that, there's 2 stories that I would just like to share before I go and set off on the slideshow. So the first, one of my favorite stories, and you'll kind of get why I'm sharing the story. One of my favorite stories was when I was working with a colleague in schools, when we were doing creative art. She was working as an artist, art therapist, and at that stage was working as a drama therapist and applied theatre practitioner. And she told me a story of she was called into a school where a teacher said that she really had difficulty with one specific learner in the class, and she thinks she might have to refer the learner because they really struggle with controlling and is asking questions, and she's just worried she doesn't completely understand. And so my colleague went and she observed the class, and she saw quite an inquisitive young boy and kind of really bouncing around and asking questions and finishing his tasks quite quickly. And then at a certain stage, they were all drawing pictures, and the teacher went to him and said, "But a cat isn't blue." And he said, "Yes, this isn't a cat. This is a picture of a cat." And for me, that is a beautiful example of sometimes when we feel responsible, and I'm sure, and I have most respect for teachers, and I know that myself, the pressure of being in a class and having to have these boxes that I have to tick off, and having to kind of know that there's these caps, assignments, these are the topics, I must get through everything. And sometimes we might get too task-oriented and too ticking off the boxes that we don't really think, why are we doing it? What are we busy with? We are busy with artistic engagement. And it is quite a lot of potential, just the idea, and we can still tick off the caps boxes. At the end of this slideshow, I'll show you some of the resources that we've been developing with Spiel, a collective arts, it's a collective arts, creative arts collective, the NPO that we have been working with now since 2012, in schools with learners and with teachers. And the idea is to really kind of create an awareness. So part of today's conversation is about reminding ourselves, because this is what I thought when I came in here. I thought, okay, so if we have this topic of healing and well-being, practicing, it seems that we already know that. And if we talk about STEAM and know that there's the idea of communication and critical thinking, and arts can be helpful in terms of resilience building, building confidence, coming out of isolation, being in groups. We kind of know that, but sometimes we have to just remind ourselves again. And this is where I want to drop, not as kind of let's all be therapists, but drop that idea of let's work with intention. What is the intentional use of our creative arts? Or just remind ourselves sometimes of what it is to create a name poem, what it is to build a story, or to play a story, or to choose certain stories. What is the potential of kind of really projecting myself, or engaging in a specific character, or choosing a specific story to talk about. So my other, I said there's another story that I would like to share before I continue. I'm looking at time. So just coming from my personal side is that I did my bio said practicing for over 20 years, but that was kind of more in a professional sense. But so for me, my engagement with the arts started, as I think many of us, in schools. And there's one specific moment that I will always remember, and that was in grade 10. At that stage, I had quite a good business going with doing puppet shows at parties and at everywhere where people invited me to do that, and I did that since grade 8. So in grade 10, by that time, I felt like a professional puppet theatre practitioner, and I was invited by a group of policewomen to present on puppet theatre. And at that stage, being a young girl, I thought the only way that I could present this is by doing a puppet show. And I remember the characters that I was playing. I was behind the booth, and the characters started saying things to the policewomen, and it wasn't long before the policewomen forgot. It seemed as if they forgot that I was this grade 10 learner behind the puppet booth. And they started communicating. They started telling me that these ducks that they were talking to, and the ducks that playfully insulted them, didn't know what it was to be a policewoman. They didn't know what the hardship was every day, and the tension that they had to deal with, or the stress that they had to deal with. And that, to me, was the moment when I realized, wow, people want to and need to buy into creative rituals and expression. So they are open to it. So I just want to say that I can't see any chats, so if there's, but I'm sure that'll remind me if there's any chats or questions coming in. So I just wanted to share that story, and that to me was the beginning of an awareness of, I enjoy at that stage as a young girl doing puppet shows, and it was my little business because I wasn't good at waitressing, and that was a way of me to earn pocket money. But this was something that I realized as I continued with it, people played with me, and I started at the end of puppet shows just leaving the puppets there so that people could put the puppets on their own hands and play, and many times people would have done that, and they bought into it. So that to me kind of was the beginning of it. And I remember when I went to university and having puppet theatre as a module, the first thing that we learned is one of the reasons why we can do puppet theatre is because the puppets can say things that we as humans can't say. And I remember at that stage, but of course, we've discovered that already. So that's just kind of putting us in a specific context of where we're talking from. So this is kind of just a reminder again. I was going to put the slide while I'm talking. So this is Boal's idea that says the human being not only makes theatre, it is theatre. We are, all of us are, some of us also do. And again, I mentioned in the beginning, I speak as a theatre practitioner, and applied theatre practitioner, but for me, this kind of refers more to creative arts, and the idea that it is ways for us to process and express, and we can actually, the more we are aware of that, the more we can really use the potential of the creative arts. So art is understood to have a role in the present as a protective force with an in spite of quality that enables people to tolerate suffering, not so that they become immune to it, but so that they have the energy to continue to resist the This is not a dance as an opiate, but a nourishment. James Thompson is a well-known applied theatre and applied creative arts performer, practitioner. And so many times we will work with intentional use of theatre, but there's also the idea of to rest in beauty is to remind us that we're human. So sometimes we do engage in the art with a specific purpose, but the whole idea that we invite others and as teachers invite learners to engage in artistic practices. We offer these spaces for them to not only process, learn, develop creative thinking and specific skills that are useful outside of the drama space, but we also offer an opportunity where they can rest in beauty and develop their own appreciation of art. And we are moving, and I'm going to continue onto Gobodo Madikizela's work of healing the argo doesn't imply an end to all pain and suffering, but rather facing and work through trauma so that the tragic loss caused by trauma is balanced by gaining meaning. The reason why I'm bringing this in is when we talk about healing and well-being and practices in schools, in specific now in the time that we are in COVID, but also in our country, in our situation, we know that we are dealing with intergenerational trauma. We have collective trauma. That's part of our history. That's part of what we're dealing with. So, and it's also about assisting communities to heal, individual healing and community healing. And many times the word resilience comes up. And so we have to ask ourselves, so what do we mean by resilience? And this is kind of why I'm putting this here, and I'm just looking for my notes. So in short, resilience is how well a person can adapt to the events in their lives. Resilience doesn't mean the person doesn't feel the intensity of the event or the problem. Instead, it means that they have developed and can continue to develop constructive methods of dealing with potentially traumatic events. And here it is quite important also to acknowledge, and Gobodo Madikizela is one of the people reminding us that we many times talk about working with resilience with learners, but if we don't have the sense of okay, what's the environment that we're doing it? So when we talk about resilience, and this is just something that I want to bring into the conversation, we're not saying that, okay, we're only strengthening learners and human beings, and the fact that the environment around us is experienced as traumatic doesn't mean that we don't have to be advocates and social justice advocates as well. So for us, it is really integrated thinking around that. And the reason why I'm bringing in resilience is there's quite a bit of work done in the past that kind of shows, so that kind of compares certain models of resilience and the work that we can do in creative arts and how good it blends. And I will also at the end of this show how it is CAPS compliant with all the activities that we have at our disposal. Here, it's just, as I said in the beginning, a quick reminder that when we talk about specific therapeutic practices in drama therapy, and I know that all the other creative arts will have their own things, but we would talk about role play, puppetry, masks, storytelling, improvisation, theatre performance, in service of behavioral change and growth. So there we are putting in intention and the therapeutic intention. But I wanted to show this slide just to remind you that this is what we do in our classrooms as well. And so it is at our disposal. We can use role play, we can do puppetry. It is in CAPS, and if we have this idea and reminder of the potential of it, it can also enhance the meaning and the potential for the learners and for us. So that's just again some of the things. So this is again in creative arts. We have co-authorship, ownership, plural voice, witnessing, process through facilitated plan. I know that the slot that I'm in as related to grade 3s, but the idea is this is the basis. So all of this can happen still in age appropriate and kind of activities. So, and when we talk about communities and community strength, and I wanted to take it back to resilience, that when we talk about resilience, specifically the work that we're doing with Spiel at the moment, with a collective arts approach in schools, we also talk about collective resilience. And there we follow Emerson's idea of flocking, that a community flock together when something is overwhelmed, overwhelming, we can actually strengthen communities to deal with that. And again, this is where the arts becomes extremely important. And in schools specifically, as part of the curriculum, linked to extracurriculum and linked to further community appreciation of the arts. So just a quick reminder, and this comes from another art therapy, Zakeni, that I've worked with before, Art Therapy Foundation, that worked with a model of building resilience, building trust, regaining a sense of safety, moving out of isolation, expressing feelings, feeling listened to and acknowledged, building self-esteem, overcoming obstacles, and developing imagination. And all of these components we can take back to our arts practices and see how they become at play, how they are at play, and how they can be active in our engagement. So this is the organization that I was talking about. Now I'm at the end of my speak, but I just want to wrap this up with Spiel's work that I refer to, and I'm putting a website. It can, in some cases, www.spiel.org, and other times just spiel.org. That offers free resources for teachers and learners, and we've discovered that we support learners, and we can have extracurricular activities with learners, but also at the same time, it's important to support teachers, because this is the one thing that we've discovered also in training, and myself discovered that when we assist others to play, it's so important for us to play too. And during my drama therapy training, I remember getting to a point where I became extremely serious about playing, and that is when I went to clowning courses and realized I needed to play. I needed to become flexible again, and we discovered that, we saw that with teachers that we worked with as well. As soon as we open up spaces for teachers to play, it becomes more possible for them to assist the learners to play. So just again linking back to the resilience, and we'll see we talk about regulate, relate, and reflect, and this is the basic principles that Spiel use in their work as well, with thinking about resilience in terms of the arts and the potential of the art to assist young ones to regulate, relate, and reflect in the arts activities. And I'm just right at the end putting up some resources. This is the kind of resources that is CAPS compliant, and one of my colleagues actually developed a CAPS compliant session that specifically will focus on resilience building and support for learners. That's a bit too complex to share in this session, but this is all the kind of resources that will be available on the website as well for further communication. So I thought I'll just come in today to just open up the conversation. And I know there's many other resources available, but I wanted to start the conversation around awareness and intention when we engage in the arts in schools and in our communities, and also then just open up ideas around resources that's available. And these are the kind of resources that's available from our side as well. So just ending with participation and joyful is part of a dream of a beautiful future, in the sense that it becomes an inspirational force. Far from being a diversion, it acts to make visible a better world. I'm done. Okay. So and I have some references at the end of my PowerPoint that I didn't share now, but if any of you are interested in Eberson's work on flocking for collective resilience and any of the other things that I've referred to, I can definitely send it. I know that we have a good platform where we can communicate as well, so I can share more resources or the specific references that I've used in the PowerPoint. Okay. I'm wondering if there's any, my last, stop sharing, there we go. Okay, now I'm seeing Patricia. Was that something that was in my, how do one manage learners with trauma and hurt not being triggered by things if you open this platform in class? So Patricia, I'm wondering if you say this platform, what you refer to, if it's more about thinking. So the arts activities itself is already containing. So the idea is not that the teacher becomes a therapist, but that the teacher really just works and engages in artistic activities and being aware of, okay, now in terms of resilience building, if I work on a certain activity and we put scarves on, or we I challenge some of the learners to create their own story, that's already something where we have to use creative thinking, overcoming obstacles, where learners work together. So it's more kind of raising an awareness and heightening an awareness of that. And Patricia, what you ask here is also why I kind of placed the Spiel's information in, because I know in a 20-minute session one can only start scratching on the top of the kind of surface talking about this, and it's much bigger. Spiel.org is a creative arts collective that really is passionate about sharing information. So and because we were also involved in the CTLI training for teachers, creative arts teachers between 6 and 8, we are aware of gaps, and we kind of review that the whole time to see how can we assist with this awareness of intention while the teacher is just doing and engaging in arts anyway. That is not an add-on. So it's not something extra, but it's something that it actually becomes using the arts across the curriculum. So what we've discovered when we work with CTLI teachers is that when we kind of offer and open up these activities, drama activities, it's not strange and foreign anymore. People become aware that they can use it for different things. They can use it as a check-in for their class. They can use it for other curriculum and other classes as well. Must I be cut off? So I hope, Patricia, that made sense, but it's also, I knew that I wouldn't be able to answer all the questions in this one session. So it is Spiel, SPIEEL.org. And there's contact details of people that can assist, but also there's resources that will be available. And I know that they're upgrading certain things. So in a week's time, there's also more resources available that one can use in class, and that is CLAPS compliant. I see that there's more replies, and it's a pity I couldn't, I will look later. If I missed some questions, I will see if I can engage on the platform during the conference. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Cool.
Thank you very much, Amelda. I think that was very insightful, and I hope everyone managed to learn as much as they could. Thank you very much. So just a quick reminder that the next 3 workshops will be coming up. Be on the lookout for them. As soon as this one is over, you can join the others so that you can engage more with us. Remember to go over to all our social media platforms, and you can be able to hashtag share with us, engage with us using hashtag CAC 2021. There's also prizes up for grabs. We hope to see you in our next workshops. Thank you very much.